In the news tonight, Fiji's vaccination rate commendable. Unemployment benefit will remain in the form of cash. And no extension for incomplete applications.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Edwin Nunn.
Bula Fiji. Fiji has been recognized as one of the few, if not the only country, to have reached a commendable feat in its vaccination rate. This was highlighted by Australia's High Commissioner today during the handover of perinatal equipment to the Ministry of Health. Christiana Uluwai reports.
The Australian diplomat labelled Fiji's vaccination rate a world-class effort that deserves to be acknowledged.
If you look around the world, there aren't many countries, if any, that have reached Fiji's level of vaccination.
Fig says that this speaks volume of the leadership and collaboration of all government agencies.
Fiji is now well and truly on the path to recovery, to seeing the end of the restrictions that have been imposed, and we all celebrate that.
The Ministry of Health says it's not resting on its laurel and advises that we continue to practice the COVID-safe measures in place.
We made it very clear from the beginning that the public health safe measures are so important. Masking, the physical distancing.
A pat on the back is not the only gesture that the Ministry of Health received today, as Australia also donated equipment and launched the e-disease project, which will assist hearing-impaired children. Christiana Uluwai, FBC News.
Prime Minister Voreqe Bainimarama has stressed the second round of the $360 unemployment benefit will remain in the form of cash. Speaking on Radio Fiji 1 program Naila Lakai, Bainimarama says there have been queries to convert the assistance to food vouchers. The Prime Minister says the recipients will ultimately decide how they use the assistance. Apenisa Wangai Randovu reports.
The Prime Minister says people should not be bothered by the constant scrutiny of the opposition about the unemployment benefit.
To
those of you who will be receiving the second round of assistance, how you use the money is entirely up to you.
Bainimarama says the opposition wants to control the use of the money for these people who are in need to provide for their families.
The opposition has been saying to change the distribution method to food vouchers. The fact remains is that they want to control how people use the $360 assistance. Don't let them dictate how you spend, because we will continue to provide.
The government paid out over $100 million in the first round. The second payment will be carried out in November. Apenisong Grandovo, FBC News.
No extensions will be given to individuals who apply for round 2 of the unemployment benefit. Minister for Economy Aya Syed Qayyum has stressed they will not bend over backwards to accommodate applicants this time around. Ritika Pratap has more.
Individuals who applied and received the first round of unemployment benefit will need to reapply for the second round, and they are being reminded to provide the correct details.
Those who applied but did not get the first dose, we gave them an extra time, extra week or so to get that. There were some people who put in the wrong TIN number. Some we know deliberately did it. Then we tried to correct it. Some of them actually put in a TIN number when there's no TIN number as such. So this time around, because people know what the lie of the land is, so to speak, we will simply reject the applications. They must get everything.
The minister has also stressed that individuals will need to make their own application. Syed Qayyum says by the second round, applicants should have received their second jab.
We want it to be simply generated through the system. We don't want any, human intervention, so to speak. All the boxes are ticked, your payment should go.
$200 million was allocated for this scheme, of which $104.6 million has already been paid out. Syed Qayyum says if the need arises, they can top up the amount, but he says they are hoping for more people to be employed in the next few months. Ritika Pratap, FBC News.
The lawyer for Sodelpa MP Moses Mbulitavu is seeking to strike out legal action filed against his client by Sodelpa leader Viliame Ngavoka for alleged breach of party directives. Sushil Sharma, in his submission to the Court of Disputed Returns this afternoon, stated they want the case to be struck out and costs be awarded to the defendant. Eleanor Turangaivu has more.
Sushil Sharma today told the Court of Disputed Returns the case has been misconceived by the plaintiff, who has approached it in a selective process and failed to disclose materials that would assist in the proceedings. These include evidence of the vote in Parliament, where the defendant is alleged to have voted against the party directives, as well as minutes of several meetings which were requested of the plaintiff. Sharma says the plaintiff had sworn affidavit as a party leader and therefore would need prior approval from the management board to bring proceedings to court. He told the court the ruling by the Speaker of Parliament on August 13th for the party to take disciplinary action against Mbulitabo or take the matter to the Court of Disputed Returns puts into disrepute the party resolution dated August 6th, stating members had consented to institute legal proceedings against his client. Sharma also noted that the minutes of the said meeting is not provided in the plaintiff's affidavit in reply, neither has it been submitted to court as requested, adding in the absence of the minute, the court cannot conclude there was such a resolution made. There was no submission in reply by a lawyer for the plaintiff, Romano Vananalangi, before the court. Chief Justice Kamal Kumar says the two issues that will be addressed in these proceedings include whether there was a directive by the party to vote against the national budget and Bill 17, and if there was a directive, whether the defendant went against it. Justice Kamal will deliver his judgment on notice. Eleanor Turangabu, FBC News.
And to our COVID-19 update for tonight, Fiji recorded 156 new COVID-19 infections for the period ending 8 a.m. yesterday. 79 cases are from the west, 73 from the central division, and 4 from the east. There are no new COVID-19 deaths to report in the 24-hour period up to yesterday. Fiji recorded 47,795 cases since April this year. There are now 15,997 active cases with 31,041 recoveries in total. The COVID-19 death toll stands at 508. The vaccination campaign also continues. 566,210 people, or 96.5% of the adult population in Fiji, have received the first dose of the vaccine. 299,943 people, or 51.1%, have been fully vaccinated. The 5 most vaccinated areas include Mba, Rewa, Nanunga and Naitasiri, which have achieved 100% first jabs administered. Next is Nandi. And Irene Pravina from Ba is fully vaccinated. Have you received your jabs yet? Up ahead, manufacturers work to meet overseas demand. And COVID-19 guarantee scheme a lifeline for SMEs. Welcome back. The Lesuva village has doubled surveillance after a COVID-19 death was reported from the village a few months back. Village elder Laisiasi Koroi says they remain on high alert while taking all necessary precautions to ensure they are safe from the virus. Josiah Nanunga reports.
The battle is not over yet, and these Lesuva villages are not letting their guard down and forcing strict COVID-19 protocols in an effort to defeat this killer virus.
We can never be too complacent, and we are strictly following the government stance in fighting this pandemic. The virus is still around us, and we will never back down. Even though some communities have relaxed certain restrictions, the village elders here in Lesuva have agreed to maintain the current lockdown measures despite fewer cases now reported from the central division.
Ensuring as much as possible to, keep within your bubbles, and we have to abide by that.
Koroi sounded a directive that Fijians in traditional settings play a critical role in the fight against COVID-19.
We have banned social gatherings. Right now, physical distancing, washing of hands regularly, and temperature checks are must protocols that villagers have to follow.
The villagers will not be easily swayed to think that this storm is over, as the virus can re-emerge anywhere at any time. Families are also conducting prayer sessions in their respective homes, seeking divine intervention during this time of uncertainty. Chosayananunga, FBC News.
There are people in COVID-affected zones, including maritime areas, who continue to breach protocols when enforcement teams are not around. The Health Ministry says the recent breaches have hindered their work, not only to vaccinate and test villages, but in monitoring and controlling people's movement. Kelly Vadala reports.
The authority says they will not let the carelessness of a few deter their work in getting Fiji back on track.
Just like the Honourable Prime Minister has said, we know that's happened, but we want to keep on moving forward in terms of responding to the outbreak that's happening in Kadamu, in Malolo, and also in Desawa.
With police at the forefront of monitoring these breaches, the Navy is also ready to step in when needed.
We will go in if we are assisted in, if we are requested for any particular case. But in terms of our press, we continue to monitor the other maritime law enforcement requirements that is required of the Navy.
Major breaches include unauthorized movement on land by sea and failure to comply with public health measures.
They move at times, noting when the enforcement is not around, and those are the breaches that actually have contributed to some of the challenges that we have.
The Navy and police in recent days have assisted health teams deliver vaccines to islands as far as those in the Lao group. Kelly Vadala, FPC News.
A few manufacturing companies that supply overseas markets continue to flourish despite the impact of COVID-19. However, this is not the same for the local market, which has been struggling since the second wave of the pandemic began in April. Pranita Prakash reports.
Due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, some manufacturing companies have stopped trading.
Well, they're companies that actually have a majority, if not all of their business for the local market, and a lot of them in the West, and so therefore relying upon the tourism market. So without a tourism market, they don't have a customer base. So some of them had to reduce hours down to 2 or 3 days a week to cater for some of the local market that they still have.
You do hear about a few that have either reduced hours, not necessarily closed down permanently, but I don't know if there are any businesses around that have made that public sort of thing to say that we've closed down because of the downturn in business. I do know a lot of them have restructured the business operating hours or restructured the business models to operate during this pandemic.
On the other hand, those manufacturing for overseas markets have been doing well.
30 of 35 factories are actually relying upon exports. They're all doing extremely well. My own factory is working 6 days a week, 64 hours. All our staff are earning very good money and good overtime.
The Textile Clothing and Footwear Council president says he has 200 staff who continue to work overtime during this difficult time in order to meet the demand from their overseas market. Pranita Prakash, FBC News.
The Fiji Development Bank is liaising with its small, micro and medium enterprise customers to keep their accounts active and to assist them during difficult times. Chief Executive Saud Minan says they've accommodated almost every MSME customer they have. Kritika Kumar reports.
The FDB Chief Executive says the MSMEs are taking advantage of the COVID-19 guarantee scheme.
I'm happy to say that, there's a huge uptake on this sort of a product. This allows some of these customers who were suffering and they had absolutely no place to go to their institutions or the banks and borrow some money.
Minam says they have gone through phases whereby some businesses were assisted and no longer require the package.
Some of them, they were suffering earlier, but then they came back. We as a bank, we have accommodated almost every single SME customer, MSME customer here at FDB.
The Fiji Commerce and Employers Federation believes businesses are trying to stay afloat and are preparing for the borders to open.
Fortunately, the recent budget that was announced by government for the period 2021 and 2022 has been favorable.
Batiweti says they are confident that businesses will get back on track once the borders reopen. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
The further relaxed restrictions and opening of international borders will give confidence to the business community. Commending the Health Ministry for its vaccination campaign, Nandi Chamber of Commerce President Dr. Ram Raju says Fiji is well on track to achieve 80% full vaccination. Dr. Raju says members can remain assured that in a few weeks or months, more economic activities and opportunities will be allowed, creating more employment. The Chamber is also about to complete a survey of the impact of COVID-19 on businesses, loss and closure of shops, opening of new businesses since March 2020, renovation and construction activities. The Vodafone ATH Foundation is providing its support to various organizations and small, micro and medium enterprises during these tough times. Vodafone Chief Marketing Officer Rajneesh Prasad says they're assisting these SMEs and other organizations with grants to ensure sustainability. Prasad says they have reviewed and approved over 50 SME applications so far this year. He adds that they have also received some application for women's group in the country.
We would approve grants between say $2,000 to $5,000 to these SMEs, to these youth groups, so that they can go and start the initiative. So this is just to ensure once we give them the grant, they are able to go and start those activities and make those activities sustainable, so that they can actually earn from these activities.
Here are the local exchange rates as set early this morning. As usual, when our dollar slips against our two major trading partners, the Aussie and Kiwi dollars, the Songamoli rose against the other international currencies we cover. Prices were mixed on the commodities market. Crude oil dropped to close at $68 a barrel. Gold rose to $1,829 per ounce, and silver closed up at $24.82 per ounce. And we now join Sharon from HFC Bank to give us the latest figures from the money market.
Good evening. A quick look at trading on our local South Pacific Stock Exchange. More than 38,000 shares valued over $105,000 were traded in 29 transactions last week. Following these trades, the market value rose slightly by 0.06% and ended the week at $3.15 billion. In currencies, the US dollar fell for a fourth straight day against a basket of other major currencies. This was after the disappointing US non-farm payrolls report for August showed the headline figure at 235,000 against the 750,000 expected. The unemployment rate dropped to 5.2% from 5.4%, and the participation rate remained unchanged at 61.7%. Market took the downbeat figures as an indication that the Federal Reserve will have to wait before announcing any tapering plans. Moving on, the European Central Bank's policy decision will be a critical event for this week. ECB is likely to decide if it should dial back economic stimulus. This will be followed by President Christine Lagarde's press conference, where investors will look for any further clues on future policy directions. And we will have more on that during the week, but for now, that's all from HFC Bank. Vinaka.
The Seismology section at the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources will be able to analyze, verify, research and provide accurate and timely earthquake information with the installation of 6 small aperture terminals. Permanent Secretary Racheli Tanga says the project, which is valued at $680,000, will greatly assist in the maintaining of public safety, environmental protection and national economic security. Tanga says a team of 4 were deployed for the upgrading works at the Tailevu VSAT station in Nasinu village, Dawasamu, Tailevu. She adds that the installation of the remaining 5 will follow upon the completion of the Tailevu seismic station. The seismology section hopes to complete the Tailevu station upgrade next week. That is the latest from my end, but coming up after the break, chef works to refine recipes. Stay with us.
Welcome back. The Fiji Development Bank has a few projects in the pipeline under the Green Climate Fund. FDB Chief Executive Saud Minam says one of the projects was due to start, however got delayed because of the pandemic. Minam says the project has been approved and they are awaiting overseas experts to visit the site once borders open. He adds they are also looking at other major projects for 2021 and 2022.
So we hope to get into some of these good projects. Some of the stuff which we're looking at it would be your, electric vehicles, electric buses. So these are the projects which we are going to look into to 2021 and 2022 and see if it can be feasible for this market.
Age will not stop 52-year-old Sangeeta Lata from working towards achieving her dream of being one of the best chefs, exploring new recipes. Lata, who is a former entertainer for the Jokers dance group, says she has a passion for cooking, but financial constraints posed by the pandemic have become an obstacle. Jeshulal reports Lata invested her savings in a restaurant to make her dream a reality.
Despite the uncertainty in the business environment, Lata is confident about her new venture.
100% confidence because we also thank the government that who has given us the opportunity that we can open our restaurant here.
The new restaurant owner aims to serve food that would cater for everyone's need.
All wireless food over here, like burger, you can see. Our burgers are very different from others. And second, you can see all our chickens and our fries are also wireless.
Despite the current situation, she hopes to employ more people in the future.
I know I am very confident that from here we can build up. Later on, we can also employ some more staff.
The mother of two invested close to $15,000 in her business. Jeshulal, FBC News.
In tonight's Q&A, Christiana Uluwai speaks with the Minister for Health regarding support from our Vuvale partners.
Minister, how did the ministry acquire these equipments?
I'm also happy to hear that Australia and our Vuvale has also procured 170,000 Australian dollars worth of perinatal and obstetrics equipment. 4 fetal ultrasound scanners, 6 infant warmers, 8 transport incubators and 10 fetal monitors, which we'll also be receiving today.
Will you be able to tell us more about the equipments that you have here?
Today, apart from this, the Project Heaven Trust and Frank Hilton organization have received equipment worth 160,000 Australian dollars.
Tell us more about the project.
This project is a partnership between the ministry, the Australian government, civil society organizations such as the wonderful work being done by the Frank Hilton organization, Project Heaven Trust, to provide screening and outreach services.
And sports is next with Jamie.
Manakayan, good evening in sports tonight. Tui Tuvuaka content with move to Italy. And young judoka trains in Switzerland. This and more coming up. Making room for other players to represent Fiji was amongst the list of reasons Olympic gold medalist Tui Tuvuaka decided to move to Italy. The tank recently signed a 1-year deal with Italian club Zebre, coming as a surprise for many fans who had hoped to see him in Super Rugby Pacific next year.
After me trying to represent Fiji in any rugby code, I want to give them a chance to chase their dream. There's a lot of talent. I think I've done enough, and it's time for others to get that opportunity.
Semiranrandra had some influence in Tui Tuvuaka finalizing his decision.
I was at a point where I didn't know what to do, so I sought advice from Ranrandra. He told me the deal was a lucrative one and better opportunities awaits.
His mom says they will continue to support Tui Tuvuaka no matter what jersey he wears.
Although he will be halfway around the world, away from me, from his family, we will stand by him no matter which team he plays for.
Tui Tuvuaka is expected to join Parma in September and will make his international debut for Zebre at the United Rugby Championship and the EPCR Challenge Cup. Tale Materukula, FBC Sports.
Wallabies coach Dave Rennie has defended his players after they failed to beat the All Blacks, who played with 14 men for 20 minutes after Jody Barrett copped a red card yesterday. Despite being a man down for a quarter of the match, the All Blacks cruised to a 38-21 victory in the third Bledisloe Test in Perth. As flying Fijian Nicola Matawalu prepares for a new journey playing club rugby in France after a long stint with the Glasgow Warriors, he's also preparing himself for life after his professional playing days. As Benina Rakautonga reports, the Ndama Nakorotumbura native has been studying to be a trainer and gym instructor.
He's going on to Dandua to prepare them if we have to play in 2022 to have the players ready for that competition.
Young Fijian judoka Gerard Takeawa hopes to continually improve and become the best in his category. The 15-year-old was nominated by the Fiji Judo Association to attend the 2021 Sergei Judo Camp in Switzerland. Olympian Tevita Takeawa accompanied his nephew to the youth camp as his coach and manager. Gerard Takeawa says he was fortunate to be learning from the best coaches in Europe while making new friends with the athletes all over the world. After a successful round at the World Chess Olympiad over the weekend, the Fiji chess team is still in high spirits and are gearing up for the Global Chess League. This will be the third season of the competition, which will feature 130 amateur teams from around the world. Player Guru Arvind says the team is in high spirits and are ready for the tournament in 2 weeks.
A very big tournament because we have at least 1,500 chess players from all over the world in that event. So that will continue across to the middle of 2022. So our chess calendar is pretty much very active.
That's it from Sports Tonight. But coming up in Weird and Wonderful, a 250-year-old bottle of whiskey sold in online auction. Details after the break.
Looking at the weather today, a trough of low pressure with associated cloud and showers lies slow moving to the east and is expected to continue affecting the eastern parts till later tomorrow while gradually moving away from the group. Now to the west, cloudy periods with afternoon and evening showers. Eastwards from Peck Harbour to Suva, cloudy morning with occasional rain during the day. In the north, some showers and isolated thunderstorms. Places we will be checking out are Singatoka, Nosori and Mua. Humidity levels in all centers were in the 70% range. At sea, northeast to east winds 10 to 15 knots, moderate seas. Turning to tides, high tide was at 6:16 p.m. and the next low tide is at 12:15 a.m. tonight. Sunrise is at 6:09. For tomorrow, some showers and isolated thunderstorms over the northern parts and interior of Vanuatu, the Viuni, Lau and Lomaiviti group. Elsewhere, showers especially in afternoon or evening. The outlook for Wednesday, cloudy periods with some showers over the eastern parts and interior of the larger islands. Our shot of the day taken by Raihan Ali from Rakiraki. That's the weather for now, and it's back to Edwin.
In Fijian Pulse, we ask, who should coach the Fijian Drua in the Super Rugby next year?
I believe that we should concentrate on getting a local person.
I think Saya Fully, because he's a good coach.
Well, I do think that it's better for Fiji to get the overseas coach, and then we have to take the Drua to the next level?
I think Sitiveni Rabuka has what it takes to coach the Fiji.
Recapping our main stories, Fiji's vaccination rate commendable, unemployment benefit will remain in the form of cash and no extension for incomplete applications. For these stories and others, tune in daily to our sister radio station Gold FM. To our poll question, last week we asked, should anyone found cheating the system for government assistance be charged? 56% answered yes. This week we are asking, will you get your child vaccinated when vaccines become available for those between the ages of 12 and 17? Visit our FBC News website to take part and send us newsworthy pictures and videos, fbcnews@fbc.com.fj, or share it with us via our various social media accounts. You can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in news and sports and listen to our 6 radio stations live. That's your news this evening. I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. Modemanda.